Alien commander unleashes the beast. Humans just call it adorable. Part 1. First Contact Fiasco. The massive Arxian mothership hung in Earth's sky like a jagged crystal, reflecting sunlight in brilliant rainbow patterns. For the third week straight, it dominated news cycles and smartphone photos worldwide. Commander Tyke stood on the bridge, his crystalline body tense with frustration. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. "The humans have rejected our terms again," Officer June reported, his voice vibrating through the ship's atmosphere. "They say they welcome peaceful exchange, but refuse to acknowledge Arxian superiority or resource rights." Tyke's sensory appendages flickered in annoyance. The Arxian Dominion had conquered 12 systems before this one. None had been so stubborn or confusing as these soft-bodied mammals of Earth. "Play back their response," Tyke ordered. The view screen flashed to show Q Jin, the United Nations Secretary General, standing calmly at a podium surrounded by world leaders. "While we appreciate the Arxian Dominion's interest in Earth and offer of protection, we maintain our sovereignty. We welcome cultural exchange as equals, but not as subjects. Our invitation to peaceful cooperation remains open." Tyke smashed his control panel, sending crystalline shards across the deck. The humans spoke of peace, but clearly didn't understand their position. 3 of his battleships could level their major cities in hours, yet their leaders showed no fear, only this maddening patience. "They think we're bluffing," Tyke said. "We need to show them real fear." Officer June approached carefully. "Commander, might I suggest deployment of a beast? Not a full invasion force, just one. A demonstration." The command crew fell silent. The beasts were not used lightly. Bioengineered, from the deadliest predator on the Arxian homeworld. Even one could devastate a city if not contained quickly. "Yes," Tyke finally decided. "Select a beast from the deep hold. Young but mature. We'll deploy it in their most populated area." "Tokyo has the highest density," Officer June noted, pulling up Earth maps. "Perfect. And make sure our broadcast override is ready. I want every human device to show this moment when they finally understand what they're dealing with." 6 hours later, a small crystalline pod descended toward the Shibuya district of Tokyo. News helicopters tracked its path, while Japanese self-defense forces established a perimeter. The pod was allowed to land undisturbed after Tyke warned that any interference would trigger an immediate military response. In his quarters, Q Jin watched the live feed along with billions of others worldwide. His security advisor, Subin, stood nearby gripping the back of a chair. "We should have shot it down," Subin muttered, "and start a war we can't win yet." Q replied, "No, let's see what they're showing us first." In Shibuya, the pod hissed open in the evacuated crossing. Steam billowed out as camera drones moved closer to capture the first glimpse of alien biological technology. Military personnel raised weapons. Something small emerged from the fog. Then it took a few tentative steps forward. The creature stood barely knee-high to a human. It had 6 stubby legs, enormous golden eyes that took up most of its rounded face, and fur the color of sunset clouds that seemed to shimmer slightly when it moved. Its tiny mouth opened in what looked like a yawn, revealing pink gums and a curled tongue. Over the global broadcast, Commander Tyke's voice boomed. "Behold the might of the Arxian Dominion. This is but one of our beasts. Witness its power and awe." "Submit!" The beast blinked slowly at the cameras. Then it made a small chirping sound and licked its paw. In the UN Secretary General's office, Subin broke the silence first. Is that it?" Kyujin leaned forward, studying the creature. "It looks like someone combined a kitten with a red panda." On the ground in Shibuya, Dr. Hana Park had been rushed to the scene as Japan's leading xenobiologist. Protected by a hazmat suit, she was the first to approach the alien creature. "Movement is slow, non-threatening," she reported into her comm. "Subject appears to be grooming itself." When the beast noticed her approach, it stopped cleaning its paw and looked up with those massive eyes. It chirped again, a sound remarkably like a bird mixed with a purring cat. "It's responding to my presence," Hana continued. but showing no signs of aggression. Actually, it seems curious. From orbit, Commander Tyke watched in growing horror as humans began to cautiously approach the beast. His terror deepened when one removed their protective helmet. "What are they doing?" he hissed. "They'll be dissolved instantly." Officer June's voice shook. "Commander, they appear to be taking images with their personal devices and making high-pitched sounds of excitement." Indeed, the first responders were now taking selfies with the beast in the background. Someone had thrown a small piece of fruit which the creature was happily nibbling. "Fear the beast," Tyke broadcast again, desperation in his voice. "It consumes all in its path." On Earth, the broadcast only fueled fascination. Social media exploded with comments about the alien kitty and space floof. Hashtags like space floof and alien cutie trended globally within minutes. By evening, toy companies were already designing plush replicas. The Japanese government had named it Hoshi, meaning star, and Dr. Hana Park had determined it was safe to handle without protection. The beast, now widely called a fluffball, had fallen asleep in a makeshift habitat, curled into a ball of shimmering fur, occasionally making tiny squeaking sounds that only endeared it further to its growing fan base. In his command chair, Tyke stared at the screens in stunned silence. "They're not afraid," he whispered. "Why aren't they afraid?" Officer June had no answer. The most terrifying predator of their world had somehow become Earth's newest sensation, and this was only the beginning of the misunderstandings. Alien Commander unleashes the beast. Humans just call it adorable. Part 2. The beast revealed Dr. Hana Park hadn't slept in 36 hours. She sat cross-legged on the floor of the hastily assembled containment facility, watching as the alien creature, now nicknamed Hoshi by the internet, explored its new environment. Despite the government's insistence on security protocols, the setup looked more like a luxury pet playground than a xenobiology lab. "It likes the climbing tower best," Hana said into her recorder. "Shows remarkable dexterity for something with such short limbs." Across the room, her assistant Tai Wu was preparing what they'd learned was Hoshi's favorite food, strawberries. The creature had tried various Earth foods under careful supervision and shown a particular excitement for anything red and sweet. "The public is going crazy," Taewoo said, checking his phone. "There's a petition with 3 million signatures demanding Hoshi be released into a more humane habitat." Hana smiled tiredly. "If they only knew how much I'm breaking protocol." Already, Director Jiwon would have a fit if he saw our containment measures. As if on cue, Hoshi chirped loudly and bounded across the room, leaping surprisingly high for its small size. It landed directly in Hana's lap and nuzzled against her lab coat. The fur was impossibly soft, with that strange shimmer that seemed to change colors slightly under different lights. "I still can't believe the aliens thought this would terrify us," Taewoo said, joining them on the floor and offering a strawberry. Hoshi's large golden eyes widened even further at the sight, and it made a trilling sound of pure joy. "That's what I'm trying to understand," Hana replied, gently stroking between Hoshi's ears. "There must be something we're missing. No species would consider their biological weapon to be this." On the Arxian mothership, Commander Tyke was facing a similar crisis of understanding. The command crew huddled around view screens showing Earth news coverage. Hoshi merchandise already in production, crowds gathering outside the research facility with signs reading, "We love Hoshi," and worst of all, humans actually touching the beast with their bare hands. "It makes no sense," Officer June said, his crystalline form pulsing with confusion. "The beast should have attacked by now." Tyke's sensory appendages twisted in frustration. "The environment must be affecting it. Earth's atmosphere, perhaps, or maybe it's ill." Their science officer, Bin, approached with data readings. "Commander, I've analyzed the broadcasts. The beast appears healthy but docile, and the humans show no fear. Quite the opposite. They display the same behavioral patterns they show toward their juvenile organisms." "They think it's a baby?" June asked incredulously. "No," Bin corrected. "They think it's cute. a concept their species values highly. They're treating it like what they call a pet. Tyke couldn't process this information. On their homeworld, these creatures hunted in packs, using their harmless appearance to lure prey before attacking. Their saliva contained an acid that could dissolve through Archean protective shells in seconds. The largest recorded beast had decimated an entire Archean colony before being contained. "Show me their research findings," Tyke demanded. The screen shifted to security footage from inside the lab. The beast was now curled up asleep on a human's lap, while the researcher gently stroked its fur. It looked peaceful, content, nothing like the merciless predators they knew. "There's more, Commander," Bin said reluctantly. "Their scientists have analyzed its biological makeup. The beast's saliva shows high acidity levels, but it's completely harmless to human tissue. In fact, Earth's calcium-based life forms seem immune to its digestive compounds." The realization hit Tyke like a plasma blast. "Can't hurt them." "Not only that," Bin continued, "but human skin seems to trigger a positive response in the beast. The stroking motion they perform appears to stimulate pleasure centers in its brain, similar to how our resonance chambers affect us. In the research facility back on Earth, Hana's team had made a breakthrough of their own. Spectrographic analysis of Hoshi's body revealed why the Archeans feared these creatures. Under special lighting that mimicked the Archean visual spectrum, Hoshi transformed from an adorable fluff ball into something nightmarish. Its skin became transparent, revealing a complex internal structure of sharp crystalline formations that would indeed be terrifying to silicon-based life forms. "Look at this," Hana said, showing Taewoo the images. "To the Archeans, Hoshi looks like it's made of razor blades inside. And these glands here, they produce an acid that would dissolve their bodies but is completely harmless to us," Taewoo whistled. "So their ultimate weapon is just an adorable space pet to us," Hana finished. "And I bet our pets would be absolutely terrifying to them." The revelation spread quickly. News outlets ran special reports showing side-by-side images of how Hoshi appeared to human eyes versus Archean perception. Social media exploded with jokes about failed alien terror tactics and memes of Hoshi captioned, "Fear me or give me strawberries." As public fascination grew, so did the lines outside pet shops. Everyone wanted their own Hoshi-like pet. Toy manufacturers couldn't keep up with demand for plush versions. One enterprising company even created a holographic toy that shifted between human cute and alien scary views. Meanwhile, Commander Tech faced a difficult communication with Archean High Command. His mission had failed spectacularly. Instead of terrifying humanity into submission, he'd given them their new favorite pet. "The humans are requesting more beasts," he reported reluctantly to his superiors. "They want to adopt them." The High Command's response was predictable: confusion, then anger. Then the cold calculation that had made the Archean Dominion a galactic power. "Send them more," came the unexpected order. "But monitor closely. This may provide insights into human psychology we can exploit later." Tyke ended the transmission and stared out at the blue planet below. "Prepare another pod," he told Officer A. Chone. 5 juvenile beasts this time. As the second pod descended toward Earth, humanity waited with open arms rather than weapons. Television networks interrupted regular programming to broadcast the arrival. Children held homemade welcome signs. Pet supply companies prepared special alien friend starter kits. In her lab, Hana watched as Hoshi perked up, sensing the arrival of its own kind. The creature seemed happier than ever, bouncing excitedly around the room. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" she asked the alien pet. "You're not scary at all, at least not to us." Hoshi chirped in response, a sound that somehow felt like laughter. The beast had indeed been revealed, not as a weapon of terror but as a bridge between worlds, a misunderstanding that might yet lead to understanding. And as 5 more fluffy creatures emerged from the second pod, greeted by cheers. Rather than screams, Commander Tyke realized with growing dread that his mission had changed entirely. The Archean Dominion's first defeat hadn't come through battle, but through the unexpected power of what humans called cute. Alien commander unleashes the beast. Humans just call it adorable. Part 3. Cultural misunderstandings. They're putting them on their food, Officer June reported, his crystalline form vibrating with horror as he displayed the latest Earth broadcasts on the command center's main screen. Commander Tyke stared in disbelief at the images. Humans had created small edible replicas of the beasts, fluffball cakes according to the caption, complete with colorful fur made from some kind of spun sugar. Children were biting the heads off with evident delight. "This is barbaric," Tyke whispered. "It gets worse," June continued, cycling through more images. "They're wearing their likenesses on clothing, creating miniature versions for their offspring to play with. There's even a musical performance where humans dress in beast costumes and dance." The dance video played on screen. Humans in fluffy costumes with oversized heads performing synchronized movements to upbeat music. The audience, mostly small humans, jumped and clapped along. "They're mocking us," Tyke decided. "This is a deliberate insult to show they don't fear our greatest weapon." The science officer, Bin, had been analyzing Earth transmissions since the first beast's release. He approached cautiously, his data crystals glowing faintly. "Commander, I don't believe mockery is their intent," Bin said. "This is a cultural phenomenon humans call cute culture. When they find something appealing, usually small with large eyes and soft features, they celebrate it through consumer products and entertainment." "They celebrate by eating it?" Tyke asked incredulously. "The food items are symbolic, not actual beasts," Bin clarified. "It's a sign of affection." On Earth, the fluffball phenomenon had indeed taken over popular culture. In downtown Seoul, 26-year-old Dae had become an overnight celebrity after Hoshi, the original beast, had escaped the research facility and chosen his small apartment as its new home. Despite government efforts to recapture the alien creature, public opinion had forced officials to relent, appointing Dae as Hoshi's official guardian instead. Today, Dae was navigating his first television appearance with Hoshi perched contentedly on his shoulder. The creature's sunset-colored fur shimmered under the studio lights as it chirped happily at the audience. "So, Dae," the host began, "tell us how it feels to be the first human chosen by an alien pet." Dae stroked Hoshi's head nervously. "Honestly, it's weird. 3 weeks ago I was just a regular guy working at my uncle's electronics shop. Now I can't go anywhere without people asking for pictures. And Hoshi just showed up at your apartment?" "Yeah. I came home from work and found this little guy sitting on my couch watching TV. The weird part is he seemed to understand it. He still loves game shows, gets super excited when contestants win prizes." The audience laughed as Hoshi chirped, seemingly in agreement. "What does he eat?" the host asked. "Mostly fruit. Strawberries and watermelon are favorites. And he loves those spicy rice cakes my mom makes, which is strange because Dr. Park said they shouldn't have spicy food." As if on cue, Hoshi chirped excitedly at the mention of spicy food. In their research facility, Dr. Hana Park and her team were making fascinating discoveries about the 5 newer beasts, now officially termed stellar companions by the International Xenobiology Association, though the public still called them fluffballs. "They're incredibly intelligent," Hana explained to Director Jiwon as they observed the creatures solving puzzle boxes to obtain fruit rewards. "They communicate with each other using frequencies just at the edge of human hearing, and they seem to learn by watching, both from each other and from us." Director Jiwon nodded, watching as one of the smaller fluffballs successfully opened a complex latch mechanism. "The public is pressuring us to release them for adoption." "Too soon," Hana insisted. "We still don't fully understand them. Their biology is unlike anything we've seen. Those crystalline structures inside them serve some purpose we haven't figured out yet." Back on the Arxian ship, Commander Tyke had convened an emergency council. The mission was slipping further from their original objective with each passing day. "Our psychological warfare has failed," he admitted to his officers. "The beasts have become pets." He struggled with the unfamiliar concept. "There's more," Officer June added reluctantly. "Humans have sent a communication, They wish to establish a cultural exchange program. They're offering to send some of their own creatures aboard as goodwill ambassadors. The recording played, showing a human diplomatic team with several containers of various sizes. "We believe understanding starts with sharing," the human representative said. "We would like to introduce you to some beloved Earth companions that bring us joy, just as your stellar companions have brought joy to humanity." The command crew fell silent, contemplating this unexpected development. "It could be a trap," suggested the security chief. "Their creatures might be weapons." Science Officer Bin reviewed the biological scans. The containers appear to hold several small mammals and one slightly larger canine species. All are common Earth pets. "Show me," Tyke ordered. The screen displayed images of a golden retriever puppy, 2 cats, a rabbit, and a hamster. To human eyes, these were the epitome of adorable. To the Arxians, with their different visual spectrum, they were nightmarish. The calcium skeletons visible through their silicon-based vision resembled the most feared predators of their home world. The fur appeared as writhing tendrils, the wet noses as acidic secretion organs. Commander Tyke actually stepped back from the screen. "Those are pets? They keep those in their dwellings? Near their young?" "According to our research," Bin confirmed, "humans often sleep in the same resting chambers as these creatures." The revelation stunned the entire command crew. What humans considered cute, they found terrifying, and vice versa. The implications were profound. On Earth, Dr. Park had reached the same conclusion. She stood in her lab, looking at dual spectrum, images of both Earth animals and the fluffballs. "It's all about perception," she explained to her team. "What looks adorable to us looks monstrous to them because of our different evolutionary paths and sensory systems. Silicon-based life forms would see calcium skeletons as threatening, while we find the crystalline structures of the fluffballs beautiful." Taewoo grinned, playing with one of the fluffballs. "So basically we think their scariest monsters are cute, and they think our puppies are terrifying." "Exactly," Hana said, "which means we need to reconsider everything about this. First contact. Their attack wasn't an attack at all. It was what they genuinely thought would frighten us." News of this revelation spread quickly across both human media and through the Arxian fleet. Humans found it hilarious that the aliens had tried to scare them with creatures that looked like stuffed toys. The Arxians were equally baffled, and somewhat concerned, about a species that kept what looked like walking nightmares as companions. As Commander Tyke prepared to meet the human delegation, he wondered how their species could ever find common ground when their most basic perceptions were so wildly different. "Perhaps," Officer June suggested carefully, "this is why diplomatic relations between different species are so challenging. We don't just speak different languages, we experience reality differently." Tyke looked at the image of Hoshi, now the most famous being on Earth, cuddled up asleep on its human guardian's lap. "Prepare to receive the human delegation," he ordered, "but have protective barriers ready, and nobody, absolutely nobody, is to touch their pets." The stage was set for the strangest diplomatic meeting in Earth's history, all because what one species feared, another found irresistibly cute. Alien Commander unleashes the beast. Humans just call it adorable. Part 4. The Human Counterattack. The sleek diplomatic shuttle rose through Earth's atmosphere, carrying an unusual delegation. Dr. Hana Park adjusted her formal suit jacket and tried to calm her nerves. After weeks of negotiations, the Arxians had finally agreed to receive human representatives aboard their mothership. As the lead xenobiologist studying the fluffballs, Hana had been an obvious choice for the team. Less obvious was her companion, Day, the young electronics shop worker who had somehow become Hoshi's chosen human. The government had insisted he join the delegation after reports suggested the fluffballs responded best to his presence. "Stop fidgeting," Hana told him as he adjusted his tie for the 10th time. "I fix phones for a living," Day replied. 3 months ago, my biggest worry was making rent. Now I'm heading to an alien spaceship as Earth's ambassador." Hoshi chirped from his special containment carrier, seemingly amused by Day's anxiety. The third member of their party, Director Jiwon reviewed their mission parameters one final time. Remember, this is a diplomatic exchange but also an intelligence-gathering operation. We need to understand the Arxians better if we're going to establish peaceful relations. What Director Jiwon didn't say, what only a handful of people on Earth knew, was that this mission had a hidden agenda. Based on Dr. Park's discoveries about Arxian visual perception, the delegation carried what Earth's Defense Council had dubbed Operation Cute Offensive. As the shuttle docked with the crystal-like Arxian mothership, Hana felt the weight of their secret cargo behind them, 5 carefully selected containers with air holes. Commander Tyke waited in the reception chamber, his crystalline body rigid with tension. Despite weeks of preparation, the thought of humans aboard his ship made his sensory appendages twitch uncomfortably, especially knowing what they were bringing. "The human shuttle has docked," Officer June reported. "Security teams are ready. The protective barriers are in place." "And the emergency evacuation protocols?" Tyke asked. "All crew members are briefed and prepared." When the airlock opened, the first thing that struck Commander Tyke was how small humans looked in person. The images they'd studied hadn't conveyed their fragile appearance, soft-bodied with no protective exoskeleton, just thin coverings of artificial material. How had such vulnerable creatures built a technological civilization? The diplomatic formalities proceeded with translation devices facilitating communication. The humans presented gifts, samples of art, music, and knowledge. Commander Tyke reciprocated with crystals from the Arxian homeworld and data crystals containing stellar maps. Then came the moment everyone had been preparing for. "As discussed in our communications," Dr. Park said through her translator, "we've brought some of Earth's companion species to help bridge our cultural understanding." Commander Tyke's crew visibly tensed. Despite extensive briefing, the thought of Earth creatures aboard their ship sent waves of anxiety through the crystalline officers. "We are prepared," Tyke managed, his translator conveying his hesitation. Day stepped forward with the first container, the smallest. "This is what we call a hamster," he explained, lifting a tiny golden hamster from its carrier. "Children often keep these as their first pets." Through Arxian eyes, the small rodent's skeleton glowed ominously, its rapid heartbeat pulsing like a weapon charging. Several crew members stepped back involuntarily. One junior officer actually fled the chamber. Commander Tyke held his position with visible effort. "And this assists your young in some way? They learn responsibility and companionship," Hana explained, noticing the Arxian's discomfort. "The hamster is completely harmless. It eats seeds and vegetables." Next came the rabbit, which caused even more distress among the Arxian crew. Its powerful hind legs and teeth appeared predatory through their visual spectrum. "This creature can jump great distances?" Officer June asked, positioning himself behind a protective barrier. "About 3 feet, Day confirmed, petting the fluffy white bunny. "They're very gentle." By the time they reached the third container, the reception room had emptied of all but the most senior Arxian officers. Tyke remained only through sheer force of will, his crystalline body vibrating slightly with stress. "This is a cat," Hana said, lifting out a small calico kitten that mewed softly. "They're one of our most popular companion animals." Through Arxian perception, the cat's retractable claws, sharp teeth, and predatory skeletal structure appeared as a killing machine. When it yawned, showing its pink tongue and teeth, Commander Tyke actually flinched. "You keep these predators in your sleeping quarters?" he asked incredulously. "Many people do," Day confirmed, letting the kitten play with his fingers. "They're excellent companions, very affectionate." The Arxian science officer Ben was recording everything, clearly fascinated, despite his fear. "The humans show no fear response. Their brain activity indicates pleasure when touching these creatures." The final and largest container was brought forward. Inside was a golden retriever puppy, just 3 months old. As Hana lifted the wiggling ball of fur, it licked her face enthusiastically. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. "Evacuate!" Commander Tyke shouted, backing against the far wall. "It's a primary predator." The remaining Arxian officers fled in panic. Alarm klaxons blared throughout the ship. The puppy, excited by the noise, barked playfully, sending another wave of terror through the fleeing aliens. Within minutes, the reception chamber held only the human delegation and a single Arxian, Science, Officer Bin, who had overcome his fear enough to remain, though at a considerable distance. "I apologize for my colleague's reaction," Bin said through his translator. "That creature closely resembles our planet's apex predator, which hunted our ancestors for millions of years." The puppy wagged its tail and tried to approach Bin, who retreated further. "We didn't mean to cause panic," Hana said truthfully. "We genuinely wanted cultural exchange." Director Jiwan, however, was carefully observing the ship's layout now that most of the crew had evacuated. The cute offensive had worked better than their strategists could have imagined. Meanwhile, Hoshi had been watching everything from his carrier. To everyone's surprise, the fluffball managed to open the latch and hopped out. Before anyone could stop him, he approached Science Officer Bin and made a series of chirping sounds. Bin responded with crystalline vibrations of his own. "They're communicating," Hana realized, quickly activating her research recorder. The standoff between species took an unexpected turn as Hoshi seemed to explain something to Bin, occasionally gesturing toward the puppy, who was now sleeping peacefully in Day's arms. Finally, Bin addressed the humans. "Your Hoshi has explained something remarkable. What you see as cute appears threatening to us, and vice versa, because of our different evolutionary paths. But he says there is no actual danger, just different perceptions." Gradually, the Arxian crew began returning, maintaining a safe distance from the Earth animals, but no longer in panic. Commander Tyke eventually reappeared, visibly embarrassed by his retreat. "It seems," he said stiffly, "that we have much to learn about each other's worlds. That's why we came," Hana replied diplomatically, though she couldn't help noticing how Director Jiwan was still quietly mapping the ship's layout. As the meeting concluded, both sides recognized a fundamental truth. What had begun as a biological weapon deployment had transformed into the strangest first contact scenario in history. The human delegation had come armed with puppies and kittens, and this cute offensive had proven more effective than any military strategy could have been. On the return shuttle, Director Jiwan contacted Earth's Defense Council. "Operation successful," he reported. "We've confirmed their biological vulnerability and mapped 30% of their command ship. Most importantly, we now know their greatest weakness." "Which is?" asked the voice on the other end. Director Jiwan looked at the sleeping puppy. "They're absolutely terrified of man's best friend." The human counterattack had succeeded brilliantly, not with weapons but with wagging tails and wet noses. The path to peace would be strange indeed. Alien Commander unleashes the beast. Humans just call it adorable. Part 5. Unlikely Alliance. 3 months after the disastrous first diplomatic exchange, the Interspecies Cultural Center opened its doors in Seoul. The gleaming building represented the most unlikely peace treaty in Earth's history, one built on mutual misunderstanding and the strange discovery that fear and affection could be two sides of the same perceptual coin. Commander Tyke stood in his protective suit at the entrance, feeling ridiculous but safer. The transparent crystalline material allowed him full visibility while protecting him from accidental contact with Earth creatures. Beside him, Dr. Hana Park smiled for the cameras, her hand extended, but not quite touching his protective covering, a compromise gesture they'd developed that respected both species' comfort levels. "I never imagined our first real alien contact would end like this," she said quietly as the cameras flashed. "Nor did I," Tyke admitted. "I came to conquer. Instead, I'm opening a, what did you call it?" "Cultural Exchange Center," Hana supplied, though the media keeps calling it the Space Pet Embassy. Inside, the center was divided into carefully designed sections. The East Wing housed what humans called the Fluffball Sanctuary, a habitat for the now 30 stellar companions who had been officially gifted to Earth. Visitors could observe them through special glass that allowed viewing from both human and Arxian visual spectrums, showing how differently the two species perceived the same creatures. The west wing contained Earth animals, safely behind quadruple-secured barriers with atmospheric controls to prevent their scents from reaching. The Arxian side of the facility, educational displays explained why puppies that looked adorable to humans appeared as nightmarish predators to the silicon-based aliens. In the central dome, a mixed-species research team worked on various collaborative projects. Science officer Bin had permanently relocated to Earth, becoming the first Arxian citizen to request asylum, not for political reasons but out of scientific curiosity. The perceptual differences are just the beginning, Bin explained to a group of university students touring the facility. His translator now had customized Earth idioms programmed in. Humans and Arxians process reality through completely different sensory systems. What you call cute, we call terrifying. What we find beautiful, you find strange. Yet here we are, learning to communicate despite these fundamental differences. Day had perhaps undergone the most dramatic life change. From struggling electronics shop worker to official interspecies communication specialist, he now led programs helping humans and Arxians understand each other. Hoshi remained his constant companion, the little fluffball having firmly established himself as the unofficial mascot of Earth-Arxian relations. Today, Day was scheduled to assist Commander Tayek with his most challenging personal goal yet, direct contact with an Earth creature. We'll start small, Day assured the nervous commander as they entered a special isolation chamber. Just remember your breathing techniques. Tayek's crystalline form vibrated slightly with anxiety. I've led battle fleets against the Zora Collective. I've navigated asteroid storms. I should be able to handle touching a... what was it called? A guinea pig, Day said, bringing out a small carrier. Very gentle, very calm. The guinea pig was tiny, with soft caramel-colored fur and bright eyes. To human perception, it was the epitome of harmless cuteness. To Tayek, its calcium structure and twitching nose still triggered ancestral fear responses. Hoshi hopped up onto the table beside the guinea pig. The fluffball had proven remarkably adept at calming both species, somehow understanding the perceptual gap between them. He chirped encouragingly at Tayek. Your protective gloves are secure, Day reminded him. Nothing can happen. With tremendous effort, Commander Tayek extended one gloved appendage toward the guinea pig. The small animal sniffed curiously at the strange material. When it didn't immediately attack, Tayek relaxed slightly. Its outer covering is not unpleasant, he admitted, gently touching the guinea pig's fur. Though I still cannot understand why your young keep these in their sleeping quarters. For the same reason your people keep crystalline resonance chambers, Day explained. Comfort, companionship. Across the facility in the main research lab, Hana and Bin were making a breakthrough discovery. The strange crystalline structures, inside the fluffballs that had initially appeared decorative, were actually sophisticated communication organs. They're natural translators, Hana explained excitedly to Director Jiwon, who had come to review their progress. The crystals can receive and process multiple types of sensory input and convert them. That's why they adapt so easily to both our species. They literally see through both our perceptual systems. Can we use this discovery? Director Jiwon asked, always focused on practical applications. We already are, Bin interjected. The new translation devices incorporate crystalline structures based on their biology. The communication accuracy has improved by 68%. Outside the research facility, the world was changing fast. What had begun as a terrifying first contact scenario had evolved into something unexpected, a genuine cultural exchange. Arxian technology was revolutionizing Earth's energy systems, while human art, music, and philosophy fascinated the typically rigid Arxians. Not everyone was pleased with the new arrangements. Hardliners on both sides viewed the cultural exchange with suspicion. On Earth, protests occasionally formed outside the center with signs reading, "Aliens go home," or "Earth for humans." Among the Arxian fleet, several officers had requested reassignment rather than work alongside soft-bodied emotionals, as they called humans. Yet the alliance continued to strengthen. built on the strange foundation of mismatched perceptions, and the bridge provided by creatures both species now valued for entirely different reasons. 1 month after the center opened, the Arxian High Command made an unprecedented decision. The Conquest Fleet was officially redesignated as a diplomatic mission. Commander Tyke received new orders: establish permanent peaceful relations with Earth. "It's not the mission I expected," Tyke confessed to Hana during one of their now regular cultural exchange meetings. "But perhaps it's the one I needed." "How so?" she asked, curious. "For generations, the Dominion has expanded through fear and force. We assumed all species would perceive threats as we do, would surrender when faced with what terrifies us." He gestured toward Hoshi, who was contentedly eating strawberries nearby. "Your people taught us that perception is relative. What frightens? One species might delight another." Hana smiled. "There's an old Earth saying one person's trash is another person's treasure." "Exactly," Tyke agreed. "Though in our case, one species' monster is another species' beloved pet." The following week brought the formal signing of the Earth-Arxian Treaty of Friendship. The ceremony took place in the central dome of the Cultural Center, broadcast to billions across Earth and to the Arxian homeworld light-years away. As Earth's Secretary General and the Arxian High Commander touched ceremonial pens to the document, Hoshi sat on a special pedestal between them, wearing a tiny custom-made diplomatic collar. The fluffball who had been sent to Earth as a weapon of terror had become the symbol of interspecies peace. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter," the Secretary General announced. "One where differences in perception become opportunities for understanding rather than causes for conflict." In his protective suit, Commander Tyke managed something close to a human smile. "And to think, all of this began because my species thought the galaxy's cutest creature would terrify you." Day, standing nearby with the tiny guinea pig that Tyke had finally mastered touching, leaned toward Hana. "Should we tell them about our plans to introduce them to elephants next month?" "Let's take it slow," Hana whispered back, watching as the Arxian delegation still maintained a safe distance from even the smallest Earth creatures. One cute offensive at a time. The unlikely alliance between humans and Arxians would face many challenges ahead, but its foundation was unique in galactic history, built not on shared strengths or common enemies, but on embracing fundamentally different ways of perceiving the universe. What began with fear ended with understanding, proving that sometimes the most terrifying thing from one perspective might be the most adorable from another. And Hoshi, the original beast who had started it all, chirped contentedly, somehow understanding better than either humans or Arxians just how amusing the whole situation truly was.